Welcome to this class of use of statistical softwares in data management. All of us know about statistical softwares. We have been using it quite some time for analysis of data. But we should also remember that analysis of data is one of the many activities we do in research. But have you ever thought what happens when you handle managed data or reuse data, and what are the policies which are placed behind reusing data? What actually is necessary for data safety and monitoring board? That is what we are going to look into this lecture. So when we see research data management, analysis of data is just one part of data cycle. To understand data life cycle, we have to look at all the phases of research. Data often have a longer lifespan than research project that creates them. Here what I mean to say is when data is created from the project, the researchers continue to work on the data even after the funding has ceased. The principal investigators still analyze data even after the funding has been seized and the project is completed. There may be many more follow-up projects which may analyze old data and add new data, and data may be reused by other researchers, like in multicentric clinical trials. Now, well-organized, well-documented, preserved and shared data are invaluable to advance scientific inquiry and to increase opportunities for learning and innovation. It is also necessary to prevent reinventing of the wheel. The data life cycle is a sequence of stages that particular unit of data goes through from its initial generation or capture to its eventual archival or deletion at the end of its useful life. So we need to look at what does data life cycle consist of. There are 6 phases in data life cycle management. The first is planning research, second is collecting data, third is processing and analyzing data, fourth is publishing and sharing data, fifth is preserving data, sixth is reusing data. Let's see what is planning research. Planning research involves designing research methodology, designing experiment designs, planning how will you manage data, planning consent for sharing, planning data collection procedures, and planning how the data would be processed, and making protocols for data processing, and preparation of templates. It also involves exploring existing data sources from other repositories. The second stage is collecting data. It involves capture of data with metadata, and it also involves acquiring existing third-party data from other universities and other research labs for building upon their research. The third stage is processing and analyzing data. It involves entering, digitizing, transcribing, and translating data. It is effective in both qualitative and quantitative research. Translating data, transcribing data is more often seen in qualitative research. The next stage in the next process is checking and validating data, cleaning data, and anonymizing data to prevent bias. There is derivation of data. We describe and document what kind of variables and data we have collected. We manage and store data. We analyze and interpret data. We put out results of our data analysis, and we produce research outputs in terms of reports and journals, and we cite these data sources. Publishing and sharing data involves establishing copyright, creating user documentation, that is how the data would be used, create discovery of data using metadata, selecting appropriate access to data, publishing or sharing data through publishers, and promoting the use of established data. Preserving data involves migrating data to the best format for storage. That is, once the project is completed, where the data will be stored, where would be the backup of the data. We create preservation documentation of data, and that data is sent to the repository. The other stage is reusing data, which is used for conducting secondary analysis. Follow-up researches are undertaken after the project has been completed. Research reviews are conducted on the previous existing data. The findings are scrutinized and we find out, or the lab tries to find out, what were the inadequacies in the experiment. That data is also used for teaching and learning. Research data management, or briefly described as RDM, is a term that describes the organization, storage, preservation, and sharing of data collected and how it is used in a research project. It also involves the everyday management of research data during the lifetime of the research project. For example, using consistent file renaming protocols, or making templates on how the data is to be collected, making templates of how the data is extracted from the journals, making templates of how the data is going to be reused. It also involves decisions about how data will be preserved and shared after the project is completed. For example, how the data is going to be archived for long-term storage or access, and how the other universities or research institutes are going to access your data. This has been made possible by publishers of the journals. If you happen to see a journal article, you might also want to see, or you might also see a tab of supplementary files or data files. That is one way of sharing data. Now, there are a host of reasons why research data management is important. First, data like journal articles and books is a scholarly product. That means it has a copyright. That means it can be used. Data, especially digital data, is fragile and easily lost. There are growing research data requirements imposed by funders and publishers in order to prevent misuse of the existing data and misuse of the data being generated from the projects. It also emphasizes on production of a true data, which is not invented one, which is not fabricated, and which is not misused. Research data management saves time and resources in the long run. Stakeholders involved in the data lifecycle highlight how they can benefit from effective research data management. Good management helps to prevent errors and increases quality of the analysis. Well-managed and accessible data allows others to validate and replicate findings. Research data management facilitates sharing of research data, and when shared, data can lead to valuable discoveries by others outside the original research team. Data-driven research requires data management plan. Since 80s, the production of research has started growing exponentially and marketing the beginning of challenges in the research data management. The arrival of high throughput technologies throughout the 90s has shifted the emphasis from collecting data to analyzing, storing, and managing them. Today, scientists are required to outline a strategy for their data management with a research data management plan. These plans have become mandatory in most grant applications, highlighting the importance of research data management, including data safety and monitoring, and tools such as electronic lab notebooks for implementation of successful research programs. We will talk about electronic notebook later. Research data management is an essential equipment for strong scientific practice, and several stakeholders are involved in different stages of the process, from issuing guidelines to putting research data management plans into practice. The first and foremost stakeholders of research data management is funders and publishers. Now the funders and publishers are moving towards the age of why reinventing the wheel. Funding bodies require transparent, robust, and reusable research, and that is why research data management plans have become mandatory in grant applications. In line with this, many publishers also now require submission of raw data along with manuscript, which encourages direct citation of data and have implemented data citation standards. The second stakeholder is national and international research organizations. Several national and international networks have produced guidelines that lead universities and research institutes in their data-driven innovation. They aim to improve research by building the basis for accessible and discoverable data. Third comes the role of universities. Libraries and research data management teams help researchers from proposal stages to realization of research data management plans. Universities are meant to provide services, information points, and infrastructures to deal with any aspect of data lifecycle. It also involves that a government or an international agency can ask for the project data if they want to replicate the findings or they want to test the methodology again. Another stakeholder are researchers. Researchers should have good data management plan, and good management of research data means applying good scientific practices that lead to better and more efficient research. There are accurate research data management plans through which researchers achieve reproducible results. They minimize the data loss and produce more data which can be cited and reused. Let's talk about electronic lab notebooks. Electronic lab notebooks, or simply called as ELNs, are an essential asset for researchers to fulfill any requirements for data management, and they create direct bridges between scientists and the stakeholders. By adopting electronic lab notebooks, the data lifecycle can proceed smoothly and easily, that is, from creating and collecting data digitally in one place to one-click data archiving. The electronic lab notebook empowers researchers by allowing them to implement their research data management plan without effort and time investment. Let's talk about repositories of data. Repositories are storage location for data, and these are essential for indexing, storing, archiving, finding, and citing data. Repositories can be domain specific or general, international, national, institutional, or individual collections. The figure you see here represents how electronic lab notebooks are catering to the phases of the data cycle. All stakeholders seek good management plans to improve research efficiency by making findings accessible. Understandably, funders do not want to multiply their efforts and grants to support duplicate projects. Research data management plans maximize the outcome of research funders' support by making reusable data available. It is also in the interest of any research institute to deliver reproducible science and high quality publications, as good research means improved rankings and ultimately more funds for more research. Last but not the least, researchers need solid research data management plans to achieve reliable results and publish more high impact papers. Electronic lab notebooks allow all players to easily achieve these goals. When we talk about electronic lab notebook, it should be understood that they reduce or completely eliminate transcription responsibilities. They lessen the risk of data misplacement or loss and facilitate information shared and reproducibility. At their most basic, electronic lab notebooks are digitized versions of paper notebooks used to collect and organize laboratory data, and they are most comprehensive. They are digital systems that allow researchers and scientists to record, collaborate on, audit, and standardize laboratory work and research. With electronic lab notebooks, researchers and scientists can reduce compliance risk and improve data quality, while simultaneously increasing productivity and enhancing their interfaces with crucial lab equipments and noting down the calibration settings. Here I want to show you some of the screenshots of an electronic lab notebook. These screenshots are taken from lab folder. This is general screen for entering information about the research project. Then you can manipulate the headings of electronic lab notebooks. It is similar to kind of a OneNote, Microsoft OneNote, which is provided free of cost, but it integrates a whole bunch of research tools for storage of your well numbers, design of well numbers, design of data, design of research methodology, and it also stores data in spreadsheets, and it can also import data from Excel worksheets. An electronic lab notebook is used to make your data fair. What is the meaning of FAIR? The FAIR principles are the outcome of a joint declaration of diverse set of set holders, which includes National Institute of Health, European agencies, institutions, publishers, scholars, librarians, archivists, and research funders. And then they define how research data should be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. By implementing an electronic lab notebook, scientists can follow all the FAIR guidelines without hassle or losing focus on the project. The first principle of electronic lab notebook, an ideal electronic lab notebook is findable. An electronic lab notebook allows researchers to store and organize all data in one place and enables them to quickly find them. There are regular backups and deletion controls, and it also avoids risk of losing any information. As the electronic lab notebooks are connected to the repositories, research funders and researchers can submit their data and metadata in selected archived with just one click so that datasets can be found by everyone. When depositing data, it is important to choose the right repository, discuss the data licensing, and make sure to receive a persistent identifier such as Digital Object Identifier or DOI to make the data citable. A for accessible. Electronic lab notebooks guarantee long-term data preservation, easy and controlled data access from anywhere, and export functions to quickly retrieve raw and processed data. On the top of this, electronic lab notebooks safeguard data integrity and offer storage options and backups. Data accessibility also entails that the way to get the data, as well as any legal conditions or embargo periods, has to be cleared when the data are published and deposited. Repositories, which are often integrated with electronic lab notebooks, have to ensure long-term data archiving, and universities must offer resources for data storage and backups. I for interoperable. The data must be able to get combined with other datasets, for example, by defining data formats and common ontologies to be used in each research field. An electronic lab notebook allows researchers to set standardized ways to collect, annotate, structure, and organize findings, making data easy to exchange, understand, and use in different contexts. R is for reusable. There are templates of data where you can enter your original data. Electronic lab notebooks provide these kind of templates, and they enable researchers to establish metadata standards and quickly provide all information needed to reuse their data, such as their provenance, that is insertion of instrument calibration settings, version of the software used, and the accessories or the paraphernalia required with the research instruments. Electronic lab notebooks ensure that all data generated in a project lifetime fulfill the FAIR principles, meeting the funders and publishers' requirements, and most importantly, allowing researchers to generate more discoveries and share their knowledge. Electronic lab notebooks are therefore solution for universities and research organizations that strive to generate high impact and reproducible research and are fundamental service to offer to their researchers. Now, after seeing the utility of electronic lab notebooks, it is Now, time to select the best electronic lab notebook for a particular research. These are the two websites you must visit to have a look at electronic lab notebook. The second website has created electronic lab notebook matrix, and it aids the researchers in biomedical area to identify practical electronic lab notebook tools to meet specific research needs. Using this electronic lab notebook matrix, researchers can compare and contrast numerous tools available in research data management and electronic lab notebooks and can explore individual options in depth. The tools listed in ELN matrix are selected strictly on the relevance to biomedical research, and its intended function to replace, enhance conventional hard copy and laboratory notebooks. Inclusion of a tool in ELN matrix does not imply that all ELN tools are suitable for a particular researcher. Therefore, in-depth understanding of electronic lab notebooks is required, preferably during a trial period. So this was all about research data management, and in conclusion to this lecture, I would suggest use of research data management tools and electronic lab notebooks so that when you write high opportunity grants, it becomes easier for the funders to have a look at your research data management plan and your electronic lab notebooks for conduct of the research study. This is the first part of research data management. The second part will deal with statistical softwares which we use for data analysis. Until then, goodbye.